Hey everybody, Dominic here for singletracks.com, and as I shoot this, we're coming out of winter, we're coming into spring, and for a lot of us this is a time that we start to think about a new bike for the season. And for the rest of us, myself included, we can't afford a new bike for every season, so that makes this decision a really important one. So let's get it right. But before I get started, keep in mind that this is my process. You need to find a process that works for you. This is how I do it. The first thing you need to know is who you are and how you ride. This is a big purchase and you don't want to be stuck. If you've already made a big bike purchase in the past and you're coming around for a new bike or an updated ride, you already know who you are and how you ride. But if you're the type of person who thinks that buying the latest expensive bike will make you ride more or even ride better, you're in for a rude awakening. So, ask yourself, what types of trails do I ride? Flowy, smooth trails? Well, then you don't need a downhill bike. Steep technical trails? Well, you might find that XC bike is a major disappointment. Basically, what you want to do is you want to rule out any type or category of bike that is going to not apply to you and how you ride. Let's take me for example. Currently I ride a 2014 Santa Cruz Bronson C. Prior to that, I rode a 2013 Harrow Flightline 2. The Bronson is a $5,000 category bike. The Flightline is a $500 category bike. And I rode the piss out of that Harrow. All in spite of the fact that the frame was too small, it had entry-level shifters, entry-level derailleurs, an entry-level shock, and fake brake. I was constantly breaking things, popping tires, but in its defense, I rode the thing on my local technical trails as hard as I could. Before that, I had a never-ending exchange of Craigslist specials. So this was a major upgrade for me. Now, after a year on that bike, I learned something. I love mountain biking. Now, if you don't love mountain biking for the sake of mountain biking, you're not going to love mountain biking for the sake of a $5,000 bike. So don't buy a bike thinking that you're going to ride more. Buy a bike because you do ride more. Now for the how. First up, analyze what you have now and what you do and you don't like about it. For me, as an example, I knew from riding a crap bike with crap components that there were certain things I had to improve on in my next bike. Chief among them was the rear derailleur. My entry-level components were not cutting it. Every couple of weeks I needed a tune-up, and that's annoying. And if you have a busy life, that's a major deterrent. For me, I spent so much time in those low gear ratios to climb that I used those gears the most. The front derailleur was almost never used on those steep technical climbs. Another component was braking. My Harrow had mechanical disc brakes. The power was limited to what I could deliver. Now, I'm big on saying that you should never let your line of sight exceed your stopping distance. So if you associate speed with fun, you're going to have more fun if you can ride faster. But to do so safely, you're going to need good brakes and be able to stop quickly. Now for the nuts and bolts, the spreadsheet. I know not everyone is a spreadsheet junkie, but there is no better way to remove your emotions from the decision at hand. There will be a link to the spreadsheet that I used the last time I bought a bike in the description below. Yeah, hopefully you find it helpful in making your decision. First up, I made a list of every possible component and feature that I could think of. I made sure this list was more or less universal across all the different bike manufacturers, and I placed that information on the far right side of my spreadsheet in the first column. Then I filled the information in on my current bike. And now for a little color. Here's my color code and my logic. Red is stuff that I don't like. Yellow is stuff that I was neutral about. And green is stuff that I liked and or I wanted. With a big spreadsheet, it's helpful to have a little color to help you sort through the data and see what you're looking for. Next to the first column, I filled in a column with the components that I preferred. This was based on my experience and knowledge to this point. There are things that I would probably change in my preference column if I was doing this again today, and that's life and we learn from our experiences. I then identified which components and features I really wanted in my next bike. Those I marked in green. In my case, there were a total of 8 features and components that I wanted. I then created a top row with a top total score of 8 points. The points are important and they will be discussed later. Now for the tedious part. Copy and paste that information for each bike manufacturer into the spreadsheet. In my case, I knew I wanted a full suspension bike with at least 130 millimeters of travel. That being the case, I only collected information on bikes that matched that criteria. A lot of manufacturers offer each of their bike frames in multiple tiers. Giant, for example, uses a number system of 1, 2, and 3. In most cases, I made sure to grab the information for each level of bike so that I could sift through them later. Another thing I did was I tried to grab an image from each bike manufacturer's page to insert into my spreadsheet. I'm a visual person and it helps me to see what the bike looks like, even if it's just a little thumbnail. A bunch of evenings later, and a lot of beer, I had a pretty big spreadsheet going. And then I colored the entire sheet. Red for bad, yellow for and green for good. While I did this, I also tallied up the points each bike was earning. Green, it gained a point. Yellow, was no points, but it was worth noting. And red, I deducted a point. One thing to note on the color code system is that although the goal of my method is to remove emotion from the process, we are in the end human. It's okay to throw an extra point at a bike feature that's not universal to all the bikes or maybe is highly subjective. In my case, the Santa Cruz Bronson got an extra point because at the time I was going through this process, Cup Media released the Danny Macaskill video, The Ridge. The bike was already a strong contender and that pushed it into the win column. On that note, I created a section called Special Considerations, and I included things like color and cost to upgrade as negative or positive features I could tally up. Up until this point, the analysis has been all about the bike's features and components. Now it's time to bring cost into the equation. While I was collecting specs on the bikes, I was of course recording the cost. It took a little while for me to come up with a way to do this, but in the end I simply divided the cost by the score I'd given the bike. I called this Dominic's Cost Weighted Score. I put my name in there because branding is important these days. With this equation, the bike that had the number closest to 0 was my top scoring bike. In this case, the Santa Cruz Bronson scored a 719, the Yeti SP75 Comp scored a 966, and Giant's Trance 2 scored a 1275. And finally, there was a clearance special Bronson in one of the local shops. With the price on that bike, it scored at 592. During this process, I demoed a bunch of bikes, including the Cannondale Jekyll, the Giant Trance, the Trek Fuel, and of course the Santa Cruz Bronson and the Santa Cruz 5010. The Bronson and the 5010 were among my favorite bikes to ride, so when they scored so high in my sheet, I was absolutely elated. The decision was made for me, the Santa Cruz Bronson in a carbon fiber frame. I know this was a lot of information to absorb and it was a bit of a long-winded video, but buying an expensive bike is a major life decision for most of us, so let's get it right the first time. You might not need to be quite so detailed in your analysis, but if you find the choices are overwhelming, it's helpful to find ways to narrow down your options to the bike that's right for you. And on that note, that's going to do it for this video, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button, and check out all the other great information about bikes and mountain bike culture in general on singletracks.com. Work hard, play hard, and be a big softy when you get home.